Hi everyone, Dr. Vernita White here. I am your certified and credentialed transformational life coach. Thank you for joining me. I am going to call it the first episode. And the reason why I'm calling this the first episode of this video type podcast, even though when you hear other episodes, you would think those would be the first ones because I actually recorded those first. But I'm recording this April 1st, 2023, and it will make sense why I'm giving you this disclaimer when you listen to the other episodes. But I thought about doing this. I was like, this is a great time to come on and share some real life things that are happening as far as personal growth, self-expansion, transformation, and all those things. I've transitioned into a new season, and the title of this I guess vlogcast, video podcast series. I was trying to run away from it, but there's something that's been in me like forever. I'm gonna always be a teacher, and I think once I truly embrace that. Yes, coaching is great, but at the heart of coaching truly is teaching, and being a teacher is not telling people what to do. That's a consultant. But being a teacher and educator, it means to draw things out of people. And so I've had my own wrestle moment with all of that. And if you've listened to my previous videos or things like that, you will understand that. But I wanted to come on this today, April 1st, and I'm going to make sure this goes up April 1st because I was like, this is a good transition. This is quarter 2. And I was like, let's talk about my planners. Let's talk about planning. And the reason why I brought up teaching is because I've always had to plan something. And I was really good at planning lessons for when I was a K-12 teacher. I was good at planning lessons when I worked over the mathematics department, when I worked as a district specialist. And then I became really good at planning when I got a handle on what it was like being a college professor, when it's time to plan trips or vacations. I've always been a planner. And it wasn't just being a planner, it was making sure that I did the things every day to execute the plan and get my desired results. But then it's like, for some reason, when it came to me really understanding, well, I'll say this, when it came to me being intentional about living a full life, I act like I couldn't transfer those skills of planning. And I think it was because, now looking back on it, it was because I was unclear about what I wanted to do. And I was looking for, okay, which is the best planner for me to do X, Y, Z. When it was interesting, when I was in college as an undergrad, 17 years old, trying to figure things out, they gave us those little janky school planners. Well, actually, some of them were really good. I wish I could find one. But it's like, before planners got all fancy, I could use that planner to really map out my life. And it was like, I had a full life then. I was in organizations, I was in clubs, I was in a sorority. I took a full load of class every single semester. When I say a full load, I'm cranking out 18 hours in a semester. And I think I was dating at the time. I probably had a boyfriend, a few friends. you know, I was in another organization where we traveled a lot, up and down the road, going to, that's another story for another day. Vacations with families, taking trips home, making sure I was able to study and get grades and do projects. And yeah, all of that in the little janky planner, and still managed to graduate early as far as finishing credits, finishing 3.5 years. But of course, I stayed the full 4 years because, my mom was like, you can, but what are you really going to do at 20? And I was like, yeah, might as well hang out. It's like, I was always rushing things, but in this season, God is like, no, you are about to slow down. Okay. So I said all that to say was like, I realized, like, looking back over how I've interacted with planners and trying to be more intentional, I put more stress on I put more emphasis on the planner itself than really focusing on getting clear in the direction I want to go in. And I think I've always been clear, but it was the courage to execute that clarity. Because I think a lot of us are clear in the vision, especially for a season. So I'm not talking about 20 years out, 5 years out. I was like, I think we know, I can do this for a couple of months or even the year. I think we know, like if you're working at a job in your career, you know the projects that you need to execute, you know where you want to go in the company, and so you do what you do. Planning for a family, if you are planning to have children or planning to be married, if those are your choices, there are things that you lay out and you get yourself prepared, or hopefully you get yourself prepared for that season, working out anything. And I think when we are clear on what we do and we have the courage to say, okay, this is what I want to do, we have no problem making plans and executing on those things. But when we fall off, I think it's because we don't have the courage to admit that we're clear, and the courage to, it's like sometimes I think we've been conditioned to say, okay, it has to work out. When in reality, a lot of things didn't really work out, but we just kept the vision in front of us and just kept doing things every day. And then we look up and say, oh, okay, it's done. But for some reason, we get on the other side of a couple of success accolades and awards and achievements and manifestations. We act like we've arrived and, like we're above planning and executing. So I wanted to share that with you because I got a new planner, and I hope you find some life lessons out of what I'm about to share with you. And I was going to do this whole unboxing, and I was like, you know what? Let's stay true to the vision. You want to have this podcast type, you still want to do videos, stay true to what Jesus has told you now. Stop deviating. So, I'm going to tell you about my planner history. I love physical planners. I've had happy planners, regular planners that you can get from Target or TJ Maxx, just all kinds of things. And when my planners were simple, I think I did the most with them. But like I said, when I started becoming intentional, it felt like it was this weight, like, oh gosh, now I can't write this down. And it is just so much. So I had to clear up some things. It's like, no, you've been doing this. What is the results that you're trying to achieve? And then you know that what you need to do. All you're doing is writing it down. You're making a lesson plan for your life. And I think like once I really settled into that, because I got hung up on all the things that are out there. So this may not even be for you, but if somebody like me, because I'm not the only one that thinks like this, it's like sometimes when we see certain labels or hear certain phrases, like, okay, I gotta do it this way. It's like, no, you don't. You do what feels good for you. And if you look at your track history and knowing how you've been successful in other areas, you just transfer that into what you're doing now, because that's part of who you are at your core and who you be. So I was really good at, this is a vision, this is what I want to accomplish, and I show up and do that and not be so attached. And I think that's where I kind of derailed myself, being attached to the outcome, where I wasn't attached graduating college in 3.5 years or finishing classes. It was just like, I want to be finished, and however it goes. I'll give you a little secret. Some of those I didn't know if it was going to happen, because I think I had to take a class twice one time, or some things didn't go through. So everything wasn't just because I wrote it down that it happened that way. But I just knew, okay, whatever happened, this is what it's going to be. When it was time for me to go get my PhD, it was like, all right, I'm going to finish in 3 years. And if you know that story, it was a little shaky. Like it wasn't going to happen, but I mapped out just like going to college, had the course of study. These are the classes they told me you had to take. This was the time I had to take my comprehensive exams. This was how I need to set up the dissertation. And not saying that everything went according to plan, but there was a vision, and those were the steps I had to take. Does that make sense? When you're working in your career, this is the overall goal. And if you want to go up to senior level management, these are the steps that you're going to have to take. These are the opportunities that you're going to have to go after. So it was always a plan in place, but I think we're better at doing those things because we're kind of detached from the outcome, or we actually expect for it to work out. So it's like, why don't we apply that to bigger areas of our lives? All right, so let me get into what why I started to do this today, April. And I know people usually talk about planners around, some people do October, or you may have especially November, but I know like December is a big, people start talking about getting new planners, planning for your life because of the new year, even though the new year, of course, is an arbitrary date, but I get it. I really started getting more intentional about planning when I started reading the 12-week year. And I was like, you know what? I have always operated like that. It wasn't like a 12-week year per se, but I will operate in short chunks of time coming from an education background. As a student, it's like, this is what you need to learn in this semester, this 9 weeks. When I became an educator, everything was, what can we accomplish in these 9 weeks? We have a goal we need to hit in these 9 weeks. How are we going to get the students to move in these 9 weeks? It wasn't, oh, let's see what happens at the end of the year. Although we did have the end of the year assessment, but these were broken down. Hey, what are we doing these 9 weeks? When I was in college as a student and as a professor, what can we crank out in these? I think we went 16 weeks. I think it's 16 weeks in a semester. But when I was getting one of my degrees, I went to a school and it was, what can I do in 8 weeks? So knowing that for myself, I was like, no wonder I've been like tripping up when I started becoming really, really intentional, because I got away from how my body operates, what has really worked for me. So when I came across the 12-week year, and I was like, oh my gosh, that is how I've been operating. So I had to do some work within myself to let go of what you think you're supposed to do and just go with what has been working. And I think that's why I've been drawn to shows like, was it 90 Day Millionaire or some Undercover Billionaire, when these people are seeking to make money, $1 million in 90 days. Or I think it was, what's the book? The Millionaire Next Door. I forgot the story. Trying to look on my bookshelf, but it was where this lady, somehow, if you all know the story, you could comment down below. But one of the ending stories was this mom wanted to get her kids back or something, wanted to get away from the family, and she had to make $1 million in 90 days. And I was about to say, and the story stuck with me, but apparently not, because I can't. I mean, but the whole essence of the story did. And then so like when people, and I'm a doctor, but I'm not that kind of doctor what I'm about to say, so I have to put a disclaimer out. But when people want to engage in rapid weight loss, and so of course there's an unhealthy way, but I've seen people do it in a healthy way, and it started with, their mind. You tell your mind what you want to do, and you'll be surprised. So I was like, I've been drawn to that, and so I'm getting to the planners, I promise. And I was like, it was a reason why I loved like the school planner, because it was like, look, you only get this planner for the year, and the year started at these weird times, and I was like, wait a minute, you don't operate from January to December. Why are you trying to fit in this mold? I've always operated either from an August to a December, from a January to a May, or some kind of. I have no problem starting something new in the middle, because again, education wise, if you take the summer classes, okay, I'm getting too deep. So I said all that to say is, sometimes how things are set up just won't work for you, and that's okay. So I started, I won't name all the planners because I'm looking at the ones I have around me, but I remember the Happy Planner, and I love the Happy Planner, but then I was like, well, why didn't it work for me? And I think I tripped up when it was talking about your lifetime goals, your 1 year, 3 months, 3 year goals, your wish list. And it was like, okay, you can write it down, but no one said you had to actually finish those things in that time frame. And I would do good. I had the hourly block, and I was like, okay, I'm used to that, because that's what I would do when I would, plan my day as a professor and a student and a teacher. But then I think I got hung up on like the reflections and things like that. But it was like you're used to reflecting. That's what you do in your education profession. You well should reflect on your practices. But then now that I'm looking back at it, it wasn't the planner's fault. It was because I either wasn't clear or I didn't have the courage to say that I'm clear because, you got conditioned to where, oh, if things don't work out, you've been a failure. And that's not true. Just because the point is just make the plan so you can have something to work towards. You get to move the deadline, but don't move the deadline because you weren't showing up how you were doing. Just like going to college, and if you're not someone who's been traditionally educated, meaning going to college, like, I mean, you're smart, you're brilliant, you don't have to go to college to do that. But I'm just saying it's just a certain type of conditioning that happens. I don't mean to leave you out. I can just only talk about my experience and my lens. But so I'm not here to leave you out. So take what you can take and leave what doesn't apply to you. And what was my point to what I was saying? Oh man, I forgot my. Oh, so just like college, is you went there and they said, all right, it's going to take you 4 years to graduate. That's the average. It's supposed to take you 4 years to finish. Now, whether you finish before that or after that, well, that's up to you. But you go in with 4 years. But a lot of people don't drop out because it takes them a little longer. They just say, "Oh, okay, it's going to take me a little longer." I dated a guy; it took him 6 years to get his bachelor's degree, but now he's doing quite well. So good thing he didn't drop out because he didn't finish in the 4 years that they told him. It was just, all right, I got to make these adjustments, or I'm going to stay around longer to get this particular thing. And that's the thing, you stay in the incubator as long as you need to stay in there to get what you think you need. He saw a vision for himself, and it was a certain way he wanted to go into the workforce, and it required him to stay a little longer. But he had the vision, and just because it didn't come in 4 years, oh well. Same thing with people who go get their advanced degrees. Yes, it should take you 2 years, but I don't know, it may take you three. Now, I was the opposite. My master's degree, they were like, oh, it's gonna take you 2 years. I dropped out the whole program because I was like, gotta be quicker than that. And I'm seeing the pattern. But anyway, so I'm looking at the passion planner, and I'm gonna get to the reason why I actually did this episode. So in the passion planner, it talks about, and these are not sponsored. Now you have to say that nowadays because everybody think you don't have a real opinion or you got to be made anyway. So it's not sponsored. So this one says dream big, break it down, work at it, reflect. They talk about have the passion roadmap, game changer, weekly layouts, monthly reflection, and then it goes into an hourly week, and it has of course, blank pages in the back. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I actually love the passion planner, and I love like how, their whole story behind it. I had a few of them. I think I had like 3 or 4 of them over the years, and they worked. But then I always see like where it will fall off, or I just end up decorating, weeks, just to fill up the pages. And I'm like, well, what was happening? Why do I have these empty blanks in here? There's some days it's full of stuff, you know. And then I jumped to the law of attraction planner. Now I probably had more, but I'm just talking about the ones that were just sitting in my desk because this was an impromptu episode. So then I have the law of attraction planner, and I think I've had 2 of these. And I love the law of attraction planner. I really, really do. I love how it's laid out. Mine is really pretty. It has is kind of tan, but then there's a gold embossed rose gold kind of foil over it with the lady meditating, says, I am beautiful. I love and accept myself for who I am. And I was like, well, what fell off for me? And it wasn't that anything fell off, but I think I was overwhelmed. And it was overwhelmed because I didn't have the courage to be clear in what I wanted to be when I grew up in this entrepreneurial space, like really, really what I wanted to do. But then once I did know, I froze and I kept searching, like, okay, that can't be it. That can't be it. And that caused my planner to look exactly how my mind was operating. You know how people say that how your desk is, or your desktop, or your a space in your house, if it's cluttered, because there's a section of your mind that's cluttered and chaotic, so it manifests itself. And looking back through these planners, while they were great, I can see the clutter, the confusion. But the law of attraction planner, which I probably will get again at some point, is it starts with their own roadmap. So self discovery, and these are really good for at the beginning of the year or towards the end of the year. I do recommend those. But even if you're starting, like this is quarter two, it's still, oh, I still think it's great to restart those, especially if you're going to operate like in a 12-week year kind of way, whatever works for you. If you're not going to focus on only doing these deep dive reflections at the beginning or end of the year, you get to make your own beginning of the year. So I love this. And honestly, I think I'm going to sit this weekend and go through these things, even though my new planner doesn't have that. But we'll get to have one more before I get to the one that I'm actually using. So self-awareness and self-discovery, then make mission and vision statements, set big goals, create a vision board and life statement, make a clear strategy. Then it goes into some other things. Let go of your old unsupportive story and create a new story. Find mentors. You know what? I think I'm gonna do a series on this. Take action monthly. Take action, monthly action and weekly action plans. Feel good and manifest fast. And then reflect and celebrate. And of course, there are things along the way. Also, what I loved about this, they talk about emotional vibration and affirmations and self care and giving back. The affirmation, the scale goes from depression to bliss. So they tell you what depression looks like and feels like: anger, blame, frustration, hope, and enthusiasm. And it shows where it is optimal for you to operate. Then they have questions to empower your day, things that you can do in the morning, and then questions you can do in the evening. Again, a planner is a great way to set those frameworks and those bumper rails for you to start. But if you didn't take the time, okay, so here's the thing. If whatever came out doing those things and you wrote it down, stick with that, because that's where your soul is telling you to be in the moment. What I think happened for me is, like, I did all this work and I'm looking at it like, oh crap, if you would have just stayed with this. It's like the courage to stay with what came up and actually take the steps on that, because that is the clearest you're going to be in the moment. And you only get more clear when you take the steps that were already given to you. So it says, it's ask you most important life questions. And it takes you through the roadmap I just told you with prompts. Oh, I have one more. So my apologies. It's going to be two more before I get to the actual one I'm talking about, and you can hear me live rustling through my desk. So this episode may be a little longer than I intended to be. So then it talks about creating harmony on all levels: spiritual, personal growth, relationships, career, business, fun and recreation, money, family, and health. And I love that, because I think a lot of times we get stuck on, okay, career, what I'm going to do for my business, or what am I going to do for career, how I'm going to lose weight or gain weight for some people, how I'm going to make more money, and then that's it. In my book, Embracing Grit for Greatness, I talk about how I had to focus on the power pentagon, which is, I named it power pentagon, but it's really the same areas I just said, career, relationships, health and wealth, spirituality, finances, and things like that. But that was like, then I learned about the 9 environments, which I am going to go deeper into that. And then, of course, the 12 areas of life, which I created a whole mastermind program, a year-long program around that, and want to take people through that journey, because I was like, you know, we did a lot of exploration in school about different things that, even if they had nothing to do with our degrees or our pathways, but somehow they still were necessary to enrich and enhance the experience that we had when we were in school. And then I'm pretty sure those of you who've taken the school of life, whether you had different type of careers, volunteer opportunities, you travel to certain places, certain things that you're probably not using now, they still enhance, your experience of who you are as a person today. So I love the law of attraction planner. And like I said, I'll probably go back and do some of this work, just to get recentered and refocused when I get to my other planner. All right. So then I got the Cultivate What Matters Goals Planner. Again, I love this planner too. And again, I'm only sharing these things with you all because I think any planner technically works. Got a whole bunch of degrees from using just the school planners back in the days, right? I did some things that made it happen when I used to just get the planners from Target and TJ Maxx, but I think getting caught up into thinking that this has to be concrete for your life, I think that's where I derailed. And maybe that's where you've derailed too at some point where you're like, these planners don't work. It's like you didn't trust what came out because it takes a lot of deep dive work. This takes a lot of work for things to come up. And I think we've been afraid, like, oh gosh, that's what I really, really want. Oh, that's what I really want. I'm scared to do that versus going to college. It was like, well, I've seen a whole bunch of people succeed. I've seen more people succeed in college than not. So I know that's gonna work. So I can go do that plan. I can, because I know it's gonna work. Or when I get this job, I know I'm going to go up the ranks. I mean, duh, everybody who followed this path is going to do that. But a lot of times our deep down desires that comes up and out when we do these planners who take us through this internal journey, it's like, well, I didn't really see anybody do that. Or not, like, it's not, maybe one or two, but then I personally don't know them. Or maybe that's just for those people over there. Is that really for me? It's like, where did this desire come from? And I think that's what trips us up. Or I would say that's what tripped me up. So in the Cultivate What Matters planner, again, I love it. It's a lot of who you are. Let me go to the front. Let's see if they have okay, so it's an about me part. It says, I think I did a whole video on this somewhere where I went and shared. I think it was in my Facebook group. I think I'll put it in my membership group. But it talks about what makes you come alive, what fires you up, cultivate your life evaluation. It starts off with ranking yourself uh, in 8 different areas: spiritual, personal growth, recreation. Do you see a pattern? They want you to get, these planners are now getting you out of just being just 2 dimensional or 3 dimensional, like career, money, weight. It wants you to expand your life. Talks about the challenges. And I won't go through it because this one is really, really deep. But what it does and it's not really like a traditional planner that's going to tell you your hourly days, but it gives you your goal action plan, resources that you need, things that align with your big picture, your yes no list, your word of the year. And let me get to the one of the months. Then you have your monthly spread. What are you preparing on your mind, your important to-dos, what you're excited for, what you're hopeful for, a monthly layout. And then the part where people go crazy for is the tending list. And the tending list, and I'll just read the big things. It's your brainstorm your month. Use this space to brainstorm where you will focus your time. So monthly ideas, weekly ideas, daily ideas, and then you check off your monthly actions. It's like a habit tracker. Your monthly action items, your weekly action items, and your daily action items. Those of us who've been traditionally trained, college, educated, that's been our whole life. And for some reason, after we get out of that incubator, it's like we act like we haven't been trained to think that way. Or society now says that, like, school didn't teach us anything, college is a waste. And I can see where they're going with that. I really do. But let's not throw away with, okay, that's how a lot of us have been conditioned. And for the most part, it works. I'm not talking about things that are being taught, but we were given a bigger task. And I'm gonna go to college. You need to, and I've said this before, you need to graduate, let's say 4 years. All right. Every year is broken down by 2, maybe 3 semesters, but to keep it simple, I'll say 2 semesters. And the reason I said 3 because summer can be counted as a semester, but we'll just say 2 semesters. Within those 2 semesters, you may have 3 to 5 classes that you're taking. Within those 3 to 5 classes, you have assignments that you need to do on a weekly or monthly basis, depending on your professor. And then you have your daily things that you do on your own to make sure that you accomplish each and every one of those assignments. So you see how we took this whole 4 year degree and broke it down to daily action items or weekly action items. You did this, you know how to do this. You've been doing this longer than you think. And then it's like, and it may not work for everybody, but for a lot of us, it does. And so it's like if we go back and look at our lives like that, okay, what is my big goal? Okay, I want to release the weight. And I think a lot of us is all right, 30 pounds it is, but then, well, how are we gonna how do we break that down in a month? Okay, well, let me give myself 90 days to do it. So that means 10 pounds a month. Okay, cool. Well, what do I need to do every week? How many pounds do I need to lose every week? Maybe 1 to 2. Well, probably what, 2 to 3 or something, whatever. Well, then what do I need? So that's what I need to do every week. Well, how many times do I need to work out? What do I need to eat every day? No, what do I need to do? Yeah, I'll say that. All right, so I know I need to do this every week. I need to hit this number every week. Well, what do I do for these 7 days? What am I eating for these 7 days? What am I working out over these 7 days? What does that look like? When we focus on those, and I think that's the concept, or not think, I know that's the concept of the 12-week year. And it's like, yeah, duh. Of course that makes sense. But if we don't think about that, we just say, oh gosh, I want to do these 30 pounds. And at the end of the month, it's like we're expecting to see the 30 pounds, even though we didn't plan for it. Now, some people can do it. I'm not saying that's good or bad, but some people have released 30 pounds in a month. They plan for that. But for those of us who are like, well, 30 pounds, and we get to the end of the month and we're looking like, why are these 30 pounds still here? Well, one, you didn't focus on the 10. All right, I'm getting ahead of myself. All right, so that was to cultivate what matters, but you see a pattern breaking it down. It does it every month, so it doesn't have an hourly thing, but it does say, all right, this is what you need to focus on just for this month. Keep your focus right here. Don't go anywhere. These are the things that you said you want to do, and that's it. You're supposed to post it, and every time you sit at your desk, that's what you look at. And then, of course, it has your month in review. See a pattern, reflect. Then my sister got me the full focus planner, and it's set up in 90-day increments. So she got me a year subscription. So I got 4 different planners, every quarter because they're only 90 days. And I wanted this because I was like, okay, that's when I really got into the 12-week year. And I was like, yeah, my brain does operate like that. And so I was doing really good at one point in time because this one, again, I think is a really good one. It tells you where to start. It's very simple. You write down your goals in your statements. They recommend 10 to 12, or some people say 5 to 7. You go into detail with the goal summary. Write it as an achievement goal or a habit goal. Then they ask you which domain: spiritual, parental, intellectual, social, emotional, vocational, physical, avocational, marital, financial. Then it says your key motivations, and then you rank your motivations, your next steps, your reward. And I think that's where a lot of us fall off too. We don't get a reward, or we don't celebrate. When we were in school, we were happy that a semester was over. We took breaks, we took vacations, we had a little party. We were just so happy. Now, not we were happy that it was over, but even still, we celebrated. Tell me you didn't celebrate after every semester. Some people celebrated after every checkpoint, like after, woo, I'm glad this week is over. So it's like we got out of that celebration and rewarding ourselves. And then a habit tracker. When we were in school, we knew, all right, I got this assignment done. I crossed this out. This week is finished. We did those things. But it's like we stopped doing that when we got out, or we did them for our careers. All right, I know I want to go up to this level. This is what they said they need to do. Let me track that off. Let me cross this out. I did that. Okay, I'm good. Yay. Some of us celebrate. We go to happy hours, or we have dinners with friends, or the company sends us out on retreats and things like that, or we get to go to a conference or stuff. Something is rewarded. Something is tracked off. We can do that in our careers, but what about other areas of our lives? So it goes and you get to do that. Then it says your monthly calendar. It talks about rolling quarters. I know I fell off. I was like, I don't know what to do. I can't think that far out. And it's like, yes, you can. No one said it had to be set in stone. You did this all your career. I mean, you do this in your career. You did this when you were studying and going to college or whatever the case. You saw something out and it was like, okay, especially in college, they give you the whole 4 years. So you can at least see it when you were in school. They and at least I'll say middle school, for sure. You got to go to high school, so they showing you at least 7, 8 years out. So it's like, come on, let's not trick ourselves into thinking that we can't do this or we have not done this. So the rolling quarters, I know for me, I was like, what am I gonna plan? And cause myself to get into overwhelm. And it was like, put something down, chick. It's not that deep. It is not that deep. So I do like the rolling quarters. I do have them. I am transitioning out of this planner and I'm going into this other and I'll tell you why. Then it goes into having your ideal week. No, first your daily rituals, morning, work, evening, work startup, work shutdown day. I love that. But it's like if you think that you don't want to be tied down or you want to have this free time and this structure is like not setting up for success, that's a lie that you're telling yourself. Think about again when you've been the most successful. And I know I keep going back to school, but you had habits and routines and rituals that you did when you were in undergrad or going to get your other degrees. There were things that you did because you had to accomplish that goal. If you had to get up and read, you got up. If you had to stay up late to do something, you did it. If you had to tell your friends and your family, no, I can't do it, you did it because you had to do something in a short amount of time. So I think that's why I really gravitated towards the full focus planner and then your ideal week. What would you want your week to look like if you could just wave a magic wand? And it's like we've done this before. When we had those janky school planners, we wrote out, all right, this is what I want to do this week, especially those of us who were actually successful. And I mean, if you graduate, you were successful, but you know what I'm saying. Like you mapped it out. If things didn't go according to plan, what you do? You take some white out. And it's like, oh, I got to move this. But at least you had an idea of where you wanted to go. When you plan a vacation, when you plan a trip, you do that. You map things out well before you get there. And if something doesn't go according to plan, cool, but you had an idea of what you want it to look like. Then key projects, your weekly big three. Then it goes into your days and it has a countdown. Like it's only like 13 weeks. And they give you 13, even though it's 12 weeks, but you need a week to reflect and start back up. It says, what are your daily big three? What are your other tasks? And it does have an hourly time and all these little indicators of, how to use it in the notes section. Then it goes into is it weekly? Let me see. A weekly preview, your biggest wins, your after your after action review, how far did you get? Again, reflection. Are you seeing a pattern here? Reflecting. And then what is your next week big three? How are you your self-care planner going to what you eat, sleep, how you move, how you connect, relax, and then it just keeps going. So the reason why I'm stopping this one, because I started this in February because I was like January, I just threw January away. I was like trying to get some stuff together in my mind. So I was like, okay, February, March, April, I'll make those my 12-week year. But again, I was like, there's something in me. I was like, I'm just going to reject the whole like quarter thing because date is arbitrary, but that means something to me. And I really wanted to start in April and I wanted everything to carry through. And although I love the full focus planner, it was just something about only having 90 days in my hand that just didn't work well for me. And it's a mind thing. It's a mind thing. I think it's a great planner. I really do. But it was like because it just felt detached when I've been so used to, even though my mind is conditioned, truthfully, to focus on a short amount of time to accomplish as much as I can in a short amount of time, I still like to see or feel where I'm going. I know that's just me. Some people thrive off of that. They love the simplicity of a 90-day calendar. And I think it's a great system. But it was like, because I had four different books, and I was like, I like to go back and kind of look through. It felt disjointed just for me, but I love it, and I do take things from that planner. So this one, after I went through a whole detox, and my apologies if this is going longer than I expected. Well, I didn't. No, I take that apology back. I didn't know how long it was going to go because, again, this was an impromptu episode. All right, so I was on Amazon and I went through this whole detached thing, and this was getting about, what do you really want, V? What do you want? Do you want just because you feel like you need to finish the pages in the planner, or do you want to be stuck to that and start this and in May? Is that what you really want to do? And I remember when I ordered, I would just go by. It was on my living room counter, and I would look at it, and then I was like, okay, I'm not gonna open it because I'm doing an official unboxing. I will walk by it, and then I was like, okay, I'm gonna open it. I'm just gonna look in it. I'm not gonna start it until May. And it was like, why are you denying yourself? Why are you doing that? You know you want to start it in April. You can finish out the full focus plan, the pages in there. I got some plans for that, but just do what you want to do, what feels good. And so I got a bright yellow one. I never had a yellow planner, and it's small. It's A5 if if you know anything about that. So it's smaller than the full focus planner, but it's like one of those like mole, those mold journals, those little mold tablets, things like that with the little strap. It's like that. Very simple design. So it's called Smart Planner Pro. I got an undated version, which it didn't dawn on me to get an undated version of the Law of Attraction planner. But the soul knows what I needed at the time. So I got this one. I don't even know. I never heard of them. And I think it was for me, it was like, just go back to the basics for you. Go back to the basics. So Smart Planner Pro, 13 months undated. And then that got me out of, so what if it goes into 2024? Chill out. All right. So it says I get 13 non-dated monthly and weekly spreads. It has a monthly calendar, daily schedules, goal setting, self-scoring, to-do and notes, habit tracking, gratitude, affirmations. Everybody trying to stick those things in there. 10 line pages for notes, 10 blank pages, 3 bookmarks, which I actually do like. And this is the pocket version. I think they have a bigger version. And then, of course, like everybody else, they tell you how to use their planner. Go sign up on their website and look at them on socials. They give me stickers for the dates because it is undated, and then stickers for the month, whether you have the day off or some meetings. But the stickers are minimal. Then they have like little small stickers. Their color schemes are kind of like pink, red, orange, like kind of neutral colorful tones, if that makes sense. So a neutral version of a peach, pink, red, orange, green, light blue, teal, dark navyish teal, purple kind of things. So just little stickers, nothing like I got out of the Law of Attraction, or nothing like the Happy Planner collection, which the Happy Planner was fun. And I think if I was more in the decorating, then I like that one too. So what this one is very simple. It doesn't have a lot of the front work, the early work that I talked about in the previous planners. So they just get right into it. This is the monthly spread. The monthly calendars has a quote. Get right into it. All of them are up front. Some people hate that. Some people love it. But it's like whatever works for you. And then it has the weekly calendar, straight to the point, no pre-work, no prep work. And then so with the weekly calendars, they start off with the date. The monthly spread is a Monday start date. I didn't know that, but I actually do like Monday start dates personally. So it starts off and it says the date, the 4 habits you want to make. Start off with gratitude, your top 3 priorities, your habit tracker, a small to-do list, and they have an hourly spread from 6 to 9. And then on Saturday and Sunday, the hourly spreads from 6 to 12. And they're shorter little blocks. Wait, 6. Oh, they're even numbers. I was like, how are you going to say? Okay, it's even. So it goes 6, 8, 10, 2, wait, 10, 12, 2, 4, 6, 8, 12. All right, that's unique. That's cool. All right. And then weekly review your victories and what you want to improve. So they do all of that. I'm like, did they have a reflection in here? No, they didn't have a reflection. The reflection is down at the bottom. You got some notes and you got two little boxes for your victories and what you want to improve. Look, they said, look, just make it simple. You need to just map out your day and keep it moving. You can take some notes in the back. So that's the one I'm moving towards. Something simple. And in this season for this where I am right now, this is going to work because one, I had the courage to get clear. You want to do this for your YouTube channel. How do you want to restructure your company and how you're going to do your coaching? Be honest with what the type of coaching that you want to do. How are you going to put out your content? What content do you actually want to put out and how often do you want to put it out? Simplify. And while those other planners were great, and the reason why I will go back to them, especially the law of attraction one, it's because I loved all of that work, but I, for myself, needed to be as simplified as possible for my brain. I'm not saying this planner is super fantastic. I don't know yet. But like I said, any planner will work when you get the courage to be clear and take those steps and be certain. And this is how I'm showing up. I'm doing the plan until God tells me to change, until the universe moves me in another direction. Doggone it, this is what it is. I'm not going to deviate. So if you are in this moment and you've had some self-reflection, you meditated, you did any pre-work, and I'm inviting you to do some sort of pre-work again for this quarter, whatever comes up, stick with it. If it's the same from December or January, fantastic. Keep going. If it changed and you know within yourself that it changed, it is okay to let the former go. In college, how many of you started with a certain major? You got up in there and you were like, this is not what I want to do. You want to know how I know a lot of you did it? Because I did it. I was groomed all through middle school and high school to be a computer engineer, coding, CAD, programming, all those things before it became a hot thing, right? Before people were still like, you sure this is where we're going? So I was doing that, got accepted into the College of Engineering straight off. And if you know about the college life, that doesn't happen. So I'm taking my classes freshman year. I'm in my major. I didn't have to do a lot of the and then my junior year, I'm in there in these classes. I remember I looked at she's my dear friend to this day. She was there a year ahead of me. So she spent a year in this, and we're in this class and they're talking about things, the careers we could be as engineers. And we both looked at each other and was like, I don't want to do any of this anymore. And that day we went down to the office and changed our majors to math. We double majored pure mathematics and then secondary education. So, I mean, it was like we did more work, but it was like, this is not the move. Now, I will say, looking back, if I was thinking differently, and I don't regret any decision that I made, but it's like stick with it and go. Sometimes, like your passion, I think mine was more of a calling shift. But it was like, if you don't stick with it because it was hard, or go to make the money so you can eat and do all the things, especially if you don't drop out because you all right. Now I won't get too deep into that. But anyway, the point is, if it's like within your soul, like, this is not it, change. It is okay. You really can't mess up your life as much as you think you can. You're not that powerful. And that's something I have to keep telling myself. Even if you go derail a little bit, one, God is going to correct you if you believe in God. Two, because God made the universe and there are universal laws, you will self-correct. People may not look at it this way, but the global episode, because I don't know what you can and cannot say, but you know what happened in 2020. I believe that was a way for the world, the to self-correct itself. I'm not saying anything about the people who did not make it, the things that people have long. I'm not talking about all of them. I'm just talking about environmentally. It was a self-correcting to where we had to pause and for things to rejuvenate and come back to life. So you will self-correct. I mean, you will get corrected. It's okay, but you have to get into motion in order to be self-corrected. So you can change. When you change and stick with it just for at least 90 days. So start 30 days, cool. 60 days, stick with it. Don't be out here just flipping and flopping. When you've done some work, then stick with it. Now we're in a new quarter, stick with it. Don't expect overnight results. Don't expect over week results. Now, it's two ways to think of that. I will say expect things to move quickly. Because I just heard this sermon from Pastor Keon, and I was like, you know what? Yes, I expect things to move quickly. Things have always moved quickly in my life, and it wasn't until I got this where plan your year thing to where I was like, oh, it should take a year. No, I've always got things done quickly. So if you've been operating in that vibe, keep that same energy. But what I'm saying is don't be so attached if the $1 million doesn't come tomorrow. Can it? Yes, but are you willing to do the work for it to show up tomorrow? So I leave you with that. That is my whole planner history. Let me know down below what resonated with you and what are your thoughts about planners. Let me know your favorite planner if you have one, and then tell me why, because I actually want to know. I love exploring. I love going to see, different things, but it only works when you work it. Again, people have changed the world with the little planners they got from Target or Ross or TJ Maxx or Marshalls or wherever. So it's not the planner. People who made bullet journals where they make their own things have changed their lives. So let's not get caught up on the planners. Is what are you having the courage to operate or execute the clarity in the moment that you've been given it? All right, so I still like them. I still think they're fun. And then I won't even get into this because I'm gonna cut this one. But I also use a digital form. I like seeing my calendar, out there, especially being in business where people want to book things. It's good for me to have it on calendar, have it in the digital space as well. But for me, it's just something about pencil and paper and brain dumping it out and feeling connected with my hands and the paper and my eyes and the whole experience. All right. So again, let me know down below. If you want to connect with me, I have a free resource about time optimization, or you could say time management. You can go to drvernitaglenn-white.com/resources. That information will be down below. And then there are other ways to connect with me as well. I do work with coaching, private coaching, one-to-one coaching at different levels, where we do create lesson plans essentially for your life and how to walk you through this process. And not only that, but what it comes up for you and how to deal with those blocks that come up when you are expanding into another dimension or another version of yourself. Because things will come up. And if you have not been achieving the things that you want to achieve, it's because there is something that's holding you back. And if you can't figure it out why, that's where coaching comes in to place. And that's what I do. And you can connect with me there as well. I have other resources. Go to those, what resonates with you. Since we're talking about planning and time, the time optimization resource may be a good fit for you. And then if you're like, okay, that's cool, but I just want to come straight in, then we can have a conversation. You would apply to work with me, and it'll take you through this process of what that looks like. All right, thank you so much for for joining me on this first episode, this impromptu episode of the podcast. So this is officially episode 1, regardless of what you may hear later. Thank you. I hope you have a fantastic quarter 2. If you're listening to this in the month of April, if not, wherever you're listening to this, you get to make any day your January 1. I heard that from someone, and that stuck with me. You can start this process at any point as long as you just get started. All right. Remember, the world needs you to be well. We need you to be empowered. Definitely need you to be bold. And for surely, we need your brilliance. So until next time, bye.